Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are, whenever you are. Hello, thank you for watching my videos. It's Mike. It's May 11th, 2009. It's the Reinhardt Day. Let's see if Reinhardt knew what he was talking about. Market Watch this morning. Blazing across the front screen. Stock futures stressed out. U.S. stock futures sharply lower in wake of revelations. U.S. banks won concessions on stress tests. No kidding. HSBC paces London. UK market drops after HSBC gives an update on first quarter performance. Toyota results hit Asia. And if you check that article out, you can also see the amazing drop in the value of Hyundai in South Korea. So this article that was mentioned, U.S. banks win concessions on stress tests, linked over here from the Wall Street Journal. The Federal Reserve significantly scaled back the size of the capital hole facing some of the nation's biggest banks. So never mind the fact that they based a lot of their predictions upon a 9% unemployment rate, which we are already at, well, roughly. They've also decided to negotiate with the banks as to the capital levels necessary. Should be an interesting day. Ambrose Evans Pritchard in the Telegraph this morning. Enjoy the rally while it lasts, but expect to take a sucker punch. Our delicious spring rally is nearing the limits. The 40% rise on global bourses since March assumes that the central banks have conjured away the debt overhang by slashing rates to zero and printing money. Nothing of the sort has occurred. 2/3 of the world's economy will be in deflation by July. Well, he's a chipper man, isn't he? I think you should listen to him, however. Most of his numbers are correct. This is going to be a fun spring. Pope is in Israel. Pope calls for a two-state solution. Pope Benedict arrived in Israel today and called for a two-state solution to its conflict with the Palestinians. I plead with all those responsible to explore every possible avenue in the search for a just resolution of the outstanding difficulties, so that both peoples may live in peace in a homeland of their own, with secure and internationally recognized borders. He said in a speech at Tel Aviv's airport. That would be Ben Gurion Airport, but never mind, you're not supposed to know the name of the airport, because that apparently raises shackles with people. Okay, what's happening in Europe? Spain. Unemployment is running at 17.4% in Spain. Now this, of course, is the official government numbers. Yes. Some Spaniards have to accept soup kitchen meals to feed their families. Spain, after a decade of continuous growth, is now the sick man of Europe, and discontent is growing. This should be interesting as well. In the UK, town halls cut jobs as local government loses £2.5 billion of income. A survey from the Local Government Association shows that 3 in 5 councils have made staff reductions, including frontline posts, since last October. And a similar proportion is planning cuts over the next 12 months. Town halls have lost hundreds of millions through reduced parking and planning charges, lower than expected returns on investments, and reduced income due to the property slump. Go figure. Expect similar news in Canada and the States shortly. Every house to have a smart meter under £9 billion scheme. Now I spotted this in the Telegraph. It popped up about, I don't know, an hour or so ago on my screen, but anyway, I went Googling for it. Now, if you read this article, they've actually got the same stuff in there twice. It's cut and paste from our press release. I know this is cut and paste from our press release because I found almost an identical article over on a site called Power Engineering International, which is home to, industrial news about power management and so forth. Now, one of the things left off on the Telegraph article was the last line in this one. Smart meters open up the possibility of using smart grid technologies capable of turning off electrical appliances, such as fridges and washing machines, at times of peak energy use, and make it easier to manage the electric car recharging infrastructure that is likely to be required if the government's plans for increased use of electric vehicles prove successful. So the government, if they notice that you are not doing your bit to reduce your carbon footprint by reducing your electricity usage. Can shut off your fridge. How nice. Now, I've also linked a video from ITN about the same story. One thing to note, look at the remote display. How is it communicating with the electric meter? Is it perhaps using Wi-Fi technology? What else could be talking to that meter? For instance, your fridge. It's coming, folks. Everyone seems to think it's just some weird pipe dream, but it's coming to Canada, that's for sure. They've already sort of agreed on most of the provinces in Canada to go for the smart grid stuff. And Obama pushed it through with the stimulus bill. Alan Stanford was U.S. government informer, so shouts the Telegraph. Apparently this evening, a Panorama investigation has suggested that Sir Alan was shielded from an earlier inquiry into his activities because he cooperated with a U.S. Drug Enforcement Administration attempt to track money laundering by Latin American drug cartels. That's why it took so long for the SEC to drag him out, just at the right moment, so we would have a new name to hate. It's amazing how this all works. In Canada, federal government ready for a hiring spree. The government will have offered jobs to more than 4,200 graduates by the end of the government's fiscal year, which ends at the end of March, and we are committed to continuing our external recruitment efforts over the coming year. Basically, they don't want educated young people hanging around with no job, because that can only lead to trouble, protests, and so forth. Speaking of protests, Tamil protesters leave Gardiner Expressway, although the original article title was Tamil protesters close down Gardiner Expressway. For 5 hours last night, a group of Tamil peace protesters blocked one of the major arteries in Toronto. This is how you should hold a protest, folks. This really gets your point out to people. And of course, if you look at some of the comments, most Torontonians don't get it. But never mind. At least the issue has been raised, and people are thinking about it. On Friday, the Canadian unemployment figures came out, and remarkably enough, the economy created a surprising 35,900 jobs in April, shocking analysts who had expected a drop of 50,000. Now, evidently, a lot of these are self-employed people going into business for themselves. Analysts say the increase among the self-employed is largely the result of people giving up, at least for the time being, looking for a full-time job, amid